Well, in Donetsk, where hundreds of pro-Russian insurgents stormed a local television station Sunday, masked men seized the building. They ordered the network to broadcast Russian state news channels. Kiev blocked these channels last month, accusing them of broadcasting propaganda. Elsewhere in eastern Ukraine, thousands rallied to protest against Russia. It was a rare show of unity for football fans from opposing teams. They marched in Kharkiv Sunday. Scuffles broke out as protesters came face to face with pro-Moscow demonstrators. The city was at the center of a major counterinsurgency operation just 2 weeks ago as Ukrainian forces attempted to reclaim buildings that were seized by pro-Russian insurgents. And for more on the unrest in eastern Ukraine, we're joined now live in our studio by Ambassador William Courtney, and he is the former U.S. ambassador to Kazakhstan and Georgia. Thank you so much for joining us. We know that the Obama administration is talking about tougher sanctions against Russia very soon, and also looking to get Europe on board. We know that the EU has roughly 10 times more trade with Russia than the United States does. What will it take to actually get them on board, and do you think these sanctions are eventually going to work?
Well, I think the Europeans actually are on board now. That's one reason why the stepped-up sanctions have been delayed. The first round was after Crimea. Now we have a stepped-up section, but the sanctions are going to be a little different. The United States is going to sanction cronies of Putin. The Europeans are going to sanction people they believe, Russian officials they believe are directly involved in the Ukrainian activities.
Well, sanctioning the cronies of Putin, will that be effective in your opinion?
It will help, but probably not until actual economic sectors, whether it's energy, finance, or several big banks are sanctioned, will the impact be substantial.
Have you been surprised that the sanctions thus far have not been a little more off-putting for him?
The sanctions so far have been fairly limited, but the whole concept of sanctioning Russia is a big shock for a lot of people. And one way to measure that shock is the amount of capital that has flown out of Russia in the last quarter, 50 billion or so, and that's about as much as left Russia the entire year last year. So the psychological impact, the impact on the markets, companies tend to be risk averse. They have to assess their risks. They're assessing their risk differently now in Russia.
Well, he has proved to be a man on the move throughout Ukraine, the eastern part. So were you surprised, though, that he was this bold in doing this, despite the sanctions?
Yes, it looks like so far the sanctions have not been enough to cause him to de-escalate, which Europe and America have called for. But at the same time, he has not invaded yet. Now that may come. The rhetoric is getting tougher. The Russian forces arrayed against Ukraine on the eastern, to the east of Ukraine, are now engaged in exercises. And the Russian ambassador to the United Nations has suddenly been called home urgently. Those are the kinds of things that you might see before a more fateful decision is made.
Mm-hmm. Well, now we know that Putin is saying the OSCE monitors are actually spies for NATO, and so he's freeing one of the monitors that we know of based on medical reasons and not the other ones. What would be the strategy in getting him to release them?
I think in this case, the Russian ambassador in Vienna has said that they will try to get them released, but the folks who are the pro-Russian, the security forces in eastern Ukraine, have said that they think there are spies. So I think we're seeing a little dissonance there. If Russia does invade Ukraine in the next day or two, they won't want those OSCE observers to be anywhere close.
What do you think his ultimate goal is here? Do you think he wants to go back to the ways of the Cold War?
He wants for Russia to become a great state again, to have more sway in the neighborhood. He has kept some of the countries, such as Georgia and Azerbaijan and Moldova, kept them off balance by supporting separatist activities in those countries. But the result has been that Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Moldova have decided even more that they want to go west. That's what's happened in Ukraine now. He may have won Crimea, but he's losing Ukraine because even people in eastern Ukraine now see threats from Russia.
Ambassador William Courtney, thank you so much for your insight and your time.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it.